Hello everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Talk Speed Up. I am once again Ninja, and today I'm joined by a whole cast of casters. Yeah, sorry, my brain is not functioning today. It's been a bit slow, you know. I think
more like dial speed up.
I'm not gonna lie. When I started doing that, I thought I was in the middle of shooting a Twitter video because all I've been doing. I was like thinking about acting. I was thinking, wait, can I redo that? But then I realized, oh wait, no, this is actually live this time. But yeah, this time I'm joined by a lot of people. So yeah, you guys can introduce yourselves. Enough of me being getting everything wrong as usual. If yeah,
Classic.
What's up with you guys?
I mean, I'm just gonna be the boring. Yeah, okay, 2 weeks older. That's the way it is. Tassel's been fun, which we'll dive into a little bit. But that's been kind of fun to watch develop. But our guest commentators can go ahead and introduce themselves. I mean, they probably don't need much introduction to you all, but how y'all doing?
How are you doing, Nine? We can start with you.
Sure. I mean, what an introduction. That's
you guys, come on. Like, if people actually need introduced to you, like, this is not the show for you.
No. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. My name's NineWholeGrains. I'm a Splatoon commentator, and excited to be here. Love talking about commentary, so thank you guys for having me on.
And I'm Melissa, Acid Sunshine. I don't know, I haven't done much Splatoon commentary recently, but I took a little bit of a break, so, I am a Splatoon 2 commentator as well, and I match Nine's green screen today.
There you go.
Yeah, that's true. And so I think before we move on to any Splatoon stuff, one thing that we've been doing recently, which normally okay, let me try again. So ever since Shockwave suggested it, normally what I've been trying to do is go through when did people get into playing competitive, when did you start through teams? But of course, you guys are not competitive players. I know that at least Nine used to play competitively, but of course, both pretty much casting, organizing, all of that stuff. So I mean, either of you can start. Where did you start in Splatoon? When did you pick it up? And what was your kind of gradual, transformation to a caster and where you are now? Either of you can start.
I have a really weird I fell into this, right? So I bought Splatoon because one of my streamer friends played it, and I bought a capture card to stream it, and I started streaming, and I was in a mutual server with the Black from Ink TV, and one of our mutual friends tagged him in this server and was like, hey, this girl is streaming and she's messing around, she's doing commentary, she really wants to do it. And he came into my stream and he's giving me feedback live. I was joking around in PBs, nothing serious, just kind of messing around. And then later on he messaged me and he's like, hey, are you serious about this? And I'm like, yeah, I'd really like to do it. And he goes, all right, great. Here, come and hang out in VC with these 6 casters for an entire tournament. And I just listened. I think it was 2 tournaments in a row that I sat for 7 hours and listened to how the other casters did it. I would ask questions and just kind of absorb as much as I could from that. And then I did my first low ink with, I think it was Vesper was my first casting partner. Wow. I've never been a good player. I'm actually terrible.
quickly clarifying, that was that was the Black and Spoons. They'd have 5 casters on at once, right? That was the old Black and Spoons.
Not where I started. So I started casting for Young. Was it called Young Ink or?
I think it was Young Ink.
Yeah, it would have been Young Ink back in those days.
Yeah, and then Squidboards, which I know Kbot you were involved in a lot. Yeah, so my second tournament ever was SQSS, and I think it was me and Hitzel for about 6.5 hours.
That checks out. Everything you just said checks out.
Yeah, it was
Threw you two on the mic together for second experiences. What?
Honestly, it was the best learning experience I could have ever asked for, because Hitzel is so knowledgeable about Splatoon. You can ask him anything and he knows what he's talking about. And during the breaks, I was like, hey, can I get feedback on this? He's like, yeah. He goes, at one point he goes, Kiver. And I was like, what am I saying? He's like, Kyver. I'm like, oh my God. Things that I didn't even know because I wasn't part of the competitive scene. And then much later on, when they brought BNS, like what you're talking about, back, then I was like a staple on there. I loved it. I loved just having that opportunity to do a lot of practice with a lot of different casters, because people all the time came on. And it went through a lot of iterations of like, oh, we're going to be crazy. We're going to not be crazy. We're going to be as professional as we can get to see how much most money people are going to donate. What did that stream make? Like $3,000 or $4,000, I think.
There were some pretty ridiculous strategies that we came up with. Like, I kid you not, Bleck and I would like spend, like, we would just send DMs back and forth of like what would get people to donate more money, and it got pretty ridiculous at certain points. Some of the schemes we came up with.
Jeez.
It was so much fun though. So that was how I started. And I still maintain that I'm a terrible player, but I absolutely love commentary and learning about it. And, you know, learning from you, Nine, has been really wonderful. So, you know, I really appreciate everything you've taught me as well.
I think that goes for a lot of people, especially in commentary. It's like, yes, Nine, go ahead and pave the way, and then we'll follow behind you. So how did you get started, Nine?
So it's kind of funny that you mentioned that whole pave the way bit. So I got the game on release day, and I played the game hardcore from release day onward. My roommate in college was Gingerbread Man 17. I know him as Avery. Some people know him as Bread, but Roller Extraordinaire, Luna Blaster. So we would, I kid you not, we would both get home from class and we would play until like 2 a.m. We would just do twins. He would be on his Luna this Splatoon 1, mind you. He would be on his Luna Neo, and I would be on my Berry Splattershot Pro, and we would just play through everything like all hours of the night, and we would see these tournament streams of like Omohide and all these people, and we'd be like, oh man, that SRB2 dude, that dude, like Pixelated Cody, these guys, Nike, what in the world? How'd he just wipe everybody again? They were all already dead. And we saw this, and then the community was even harder to get into back then than it is now. Like you had to know the passcode, be able to complete a round of hopscotch, and also be S+ if you wanted to get into a team. So naturally, we both went without a team forever.
I think you just need to stumble across Squidboards, but all right.
Well, there are posts of me on Squidboard. I still have a Jonathan Joestar, a Joseph Joestar avatar on there. And I remember, like, the first thing that the first thread I posted on was a thread complaining about how Aerospray was overpowered. And I remember, like, the argument, I was like, are we really certain that we can say Aerospray is overpowered? The game's been out 24 hours, but, you know, that one got buried. But in any case, that went on until Squidstorm 2016 happened. And we live in St. Louis. That was in Chicago. So I always say, if the very first LAN had not been in Chicago, NineWholeGrains never happens. But because it was in Chicago and we could drive there, we went there, we got a cheap hotel, and we ended up going. We met Dude, we met Tic Tac, Pixel, AC, all these people. And we got to play against some of these people as well. And we actually played pretty well. I used to not be bad at the game once upon a time. And Pixel saw that Avery and I were pretty good. And so he basically put a post out asking for all of the top free agents or people who wanted to get better. He smashed us all together, made Avery and I co-captains, and that's how Stratosphere started. So late 2016, Stratosphere, we're on the grind, we're getting better. We go to DPG 2016, we get 4th place. We beat SRL, you know, a pretty decent upset, and we get double eliminated by Chimera Dome, which is not a bad team to get eliminated by, but that's kind of where we were at. You know, we were able to beat some good teams. We weren't able to take the next step. And that was also the tournament that I got to commentate for the first time. What had happened is, and I don't know if he still remembers this, Lux and I were sitting next to people who were playing Smash Brothers 64, because Smash 64 and Splatoon were in the same room back in those days. So Dreamland 64 all day for 3 days straight is all we got to hear. But I just happened to be sitting close to the commentary station. Whoever was supposed to commentate wasn't there. AC says, hey, do you want to commentate? Because I was sitting closest to the commentary station. And so I did. And I commentated with Cinnabunny, who Resbit's sister. That was the first person that I commentated with. It was the last set of that day. And I did a good enough job that the next day I got to commentate with Little Square of SRL fame, and just an awesome human being. And then after that, I got to commentate Grand Finals with Eirik. And, you know, from that moment, Twitch chat was nice to me in a stunning turn of events. And I think that, you know, from there, everything just took off. my next event I casted with FLC, so literally crapping my pants the whole time. You talk about commentating with Hitzel. Hitzel, even back in those days, like Splatoon 1 FLC was, I mean, he was very sharp, and I was just terrified that I was going to say something that was wrong. We were commentating a Japanese tournament. It was 3 a.m. Psy-Cut for anyone who remembers those events. So we casted there, and then a couple months later, I got the call from Spoon to see if I wanted to commentate the North American. Well, I guess back then it was just the NA Open or the US Open, and so I casted that, and from there I thought, okay, maybe there is something to this casting thing, and I've casted every event that I could get my hands on ever since.
And we love you for it.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, one of the most interesting things I heard there, I didn't know you and Brett were teammates.
Oh yeah,
I knew you and Brett were friends because I knew Brett because I used to be friends with the Spicy Kraken Roll bunch. I used to be friends with them, so of course I knew Brett. I never knew you were roommates until now. That for me is like, I knew you were teammates, but that's actually very, very interesting to hear. But yeah,
this is what happens when you're from the United Kingdom and you don't pay attention.
Yeah, no, I remember you from the SKR server as well. I remember some of the old PBs, and I remember duking it out with you back in those days, because I still think I remember your name being Love's Quick Response Super Jump.
Yes.
And as the rest of us complained about Quick Response Super Jump, you were the only person who liked it.
Yes.
Don't think I've forgotten.
I'm surprised you remember that. I was honestly pretty when you first said, like, I remember you from then, I was like, oh god, how old was I? 15, 16? Like, please say, please say you don't remember me too well.
There's a lot of things in the SKR server that are probably best left unmentioned. So
yes, that's a good idea. But I think that's a lot of interesting stuff to unpack there. It's pretty nice to hear you got your guys' journey through commentary. Especially, I love how Nines was just, I was sitting next to the commentary booth, and then they decided to come and get me.
That is one of AC's favorite stories to tell, by the way.
That's because, like, I think with Melissa's story, she was, like, trying to do commentary stuff already, then kind of moved in through there. I mean, for me, I just replied to Lean saying, I need someone to commentate in 30 minutes, will anyone do it? So, it went from there. So it's, like, obviously commentary-based things. For you, it was just, I was sitting near the commentary booth, and it just kind of happened. That's a lot of coincidences, but it led to some pretty cool things. So, yeah, that's probably the longest intro, but I was pretty happy. I think that's a lot of fun things there. I think before we go on to the rest of it, though, we wanted to go back a little bit to last week, because Kbot, you wanted to ask about Ink for Pink, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, so it's obviously been a while, Melissa, but I guess we haven't gotten to hear directly from you in terms of, like, a very brief Ink for Pink summary. I know we talked about it last week on the show, but, like, your thoughts about the event as a whole, seeing as how you were, like, kind of one of the people central to that event. How'd that go for you?
Amazing. It was, like, really close to home. I mentioned this during the tournament multiple times, but I'm personally high risk for breast cancer, and I've, like, the week before the tournament, I had gone in for a test and didn't have results, and I had, like, a lot of anxiety about that. And the team at Breast Cancer Research Foundation is amazing. When they heard about Splatoon and what we do as a community and who we are, they were like, yes, we want to work with you. We want to do stuff with you. And I was explaining how supportive our community is, because I feel like that's the biggest thing that, like, other competitive games can be like, yeah, we have a great community. We're not toxic. We don't, hate each other, blah, blah, blah. But in Splatoon, the amount of love that comes out for someone when someone is going through something is beyond crazy. And I think that was proven really easily. We've raised $6,800 from this event.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The teams that came out, I was very worried. I remember Kbot and I were talking, like, 2 nights before. I'm like, we have no one signed up. This is it. We're canceling the whole thing. Like,
no. And I was sitting here assuring you that, there's going to be 30 teams to sign up within the last 6 hours of registration. Like,
that's Splatoon, right?
That's Splatoon. That's the way you all are, and it's going to drive us bonkers every single time, but there it is.
Yeah, but it was a really amazing event, and the amount of support that we had from the community as well, to be able to watch and to play, people who just, like, hung out and chat literally the entire week leading up to the event and really promoted what we were doing with all those casters. That was amazing. And I think the tournament is something, like, that happens within Splatoon, right? Splatoon has tournaments, but you don't often see these types of creators coming together. I think the first time we had seen it in a long time was when Kendall did his Black Lives Matter stream, and he raised over $10,000 for that. So, seeing people come together and support one another is something that I just truly love about the community, and being able to be part of that meant the world. And that's why it was nice for me then to take a second and be like, I'm going to take a step back for a little while. I'm gonna breathe for a bit. But you all know, like, when you organize something, after that you're just dead. It's like that post-land depression, and then we've been having post-land depression since we canceled Beacon in March. So it just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But I hope that you all enjoyed it as much as we did, and that's kind of where I don't know where I sit on it. I hope that was an okay recap.
I will say, I personally enjoyed being a part of the event. In 2 different ways. Obviously, I was commentating, but also doing like one of those creator streams. For I don't know, I don't think I'm known as much of a creator, but you threw me in anyway, and I appreciate that. But that was fun to kind of be a part of there. And yeah, like you said, like it's different, kind of like working with some people that you might not have necessarily expected to work with, right? That are all coming together for the exact same cause, and specifically on the weekend. And so things like that, I think, are always really fun and really different to see. A nice change of pace from everyone yelling at each other on Twitter. So yeah.
That drama never ends, and it's like, hey, let's put something positive out there. And I think every time we're able to come together and do something like that, similar to what you guys are doing with Tassel as well, like any time that you can bring some new life and new energy into the game and into the community, it just has a positive influence, right?
Absolutely.
And there can always be stuff going on with drama and with splat safety and everything that's going on, but at the end of the day, it's like when the community is there to support one another, that's when we shine the most.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that too, I've been a part of a few different gaming communities, and I've yet to see one that's per person as generous as our community. You mentioned the numbers of Kendall's Black Lives Matter stream, of the Breast Cancer Research Fund. Over $11,000, over $6,000, and Splat for Your Cure got over $5,000, $22,000 over 3 events of a community of ours. It's ludicrous. I'm going to be frank, like. We're not the biggest, but dang, if there isn't some character for the people that show up.
Yeah, and those are just for, the events that we had a cause for, right? So we were like fundraising for those. When you look at just independent tournaments, like we talked about BNS earlier, BNS consistently had $1,000. I mean, I think maybe there were 3 weeks over the course of the 2 years that I was involved with it that we hit less than 500. I mean, it was money every time. And yeah, there were a few like choice individuals who continued to donate, but that still meant a lot for those people who were playing to be able to take something home for a weekly. And I think that, that also shows a lot of how much the community supports and cares about one another.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just wanted to go back to that, seeing as how, you were kind of integral to that Egg for Pink event.
Thanks.
Back on that. Especially since we're gonna now talk about Tassel a little bit, which is something that I don't know how much have you been paying attention to kind of what's going on there, Melissa. I'm sure you've seen at least some tweets about it.
Yeah, so I work 11-hour days right now, and I have been for the past 3 weeks. So my day starts at 8:30 and ends at 7:30. So I have not been on the computer because by the time I finish work, I'm like, the last thing I want to do is look at a screen. So I've been doing a lot of knitting. I'm almost done with a couple scarves. So I'm sorry, I know hardly anything.
That's fine.
That's fine.
I apologize. This will be a learning experience for me, to listen to what's going on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, DJ, I don't know if you have something like...
I was going to say that was a really nice part to touch on. I think I'm just going to reiterate points, but I mean, I just wanted to say all the events we've kind of gone through with Black Lives Matter and Ink for Pink has been truly amazing. I think that it's really nice to be a part of it, even if I'm a part of it in just, the smallest way, just commentating a bit of a tournament. The people who are running it, truly amazing. Big shout out to, Acid Sunshine and Melissa for pulling that off. It's really amazing. But yeah, so thanks very much, all these running our great tournaments and charity events like that. But so yeah, before wait, No, why am I saying before? God,
I don't know.
my brain is not alright today. It's not alright.
It's
so
almost Halloween. It is Halloween by you, right? That's why.
30 minutes. 30 minutes is Halloween.
Okay.
It's last minute Halloween nerves.
Yeah,
There you go.
But anyway, so we're going to move on to talk about Tassel, unless there's anything else people wanting to touch on that stuff. But if not, then... So yeah, Tassel was a thing. It's started back up, and it's a lot of fun. It's been really, really nice to watch these teams go against each other. I don't know, I've been enjoying it so far. So yeah, week 1, we had Europe go against each other. So I'm just going to go over all the results in order for people that have missed it. We had the very first match was Lemonade and Rift, which, kind of pickups. 5-0 in Rift's favour. And then the next match, we were like, all right, guys, Usual Guys and Freeze. This is going to be it. This is going to be the match everyone's going to be excited for. It's going to be close. It's going to be tight. And then Freeze win 5-0 over Usual Guys. And then yeah, so, but luckily in week 2, we had 4 NA matches and a lot closer. Of course, we had the FT win 5-0 at the end over Sayonara, but we had Sayonara 5-3 Slaughterhouse. That was really, really fun. We had Starburst 5-2 Supernova was really fun. And the fourth one's tomorrow. Yes. The next one is tomorrow, which is going to be
script leak. You're letting the script leak, okay? You
Starburst
can't tell them what the score is going to be yet.
Yeah. Sorry, I was about to let it slip, but yeah, there was some really fun matches. So I don't know, the early EU 5-0s. Were you guys expecting it to be that dominant at all?
I wasn't expecting it to be quite that dominant, but I was expecting a hint of it. By the way, humble brag, 21 out of 25 points on predictions right now.
Okay.
Come at me, guys. Don't know where y'all are, but...
Look.
Yeah, it must be real easy to pick the top-seeded team every time, Kbot.
Oh, wow. I picked the top-seeded team and put in 5-2. Well done. I'm really good at this.
But I actually got 2 of the 3 scores yesterday, on the nose.
Yeah.
And you did 2.
Yeah.
Look, so
I'll give you the 5-2 and I'll give you the 5-3, right? The 5-2 is a bit lame, but I got the 1-5-0 right. I did get the 1-5-0 right. I'm hoping I get the 5-0 right tomorrow. Well, okay, I probably shouldn't say I'm hoping for 5-0 tomorrow. That's a bit mean, but I'm hoping it for my prediction is right.
For your points.
For my points. Exactly.
You're not gonna. I put 5-1.
5-1.
So
that's
I
fair.
only gave it 1 game. So I still think that honestly, we, as much as we say that these are some of the 5 best teams, and maybe this is something we can dive into a little bit, I think there is still a decent bit of a skill gap in there are a handful of teams at the top and there's a handful of teams at the bottom, even in such a small sample size of these 5 teams. I mean, obviously I think it shows in, Sayonara went kind of edged out over Slaughterhouse. They did a little bit more than edging out, but it was a relatively close set, right? Then FD1 just comes in and slams Sayonara. So it's that just tells me that FD1 is going to be really good. Starburst is kind of an interesting point because we saw how dominant they could be towards the latter half of that set, but they couldn't really find it until 4 games in their set versus Supernova last night. So I'm really obviously the match that everyone's going to be watching is the FD1 Starburst match when that happens. To see exactly how those teams actually step up. Because if it's anyone's shot to beat FT Win, it's got to be Starburst, at least for North America.
I'd say that for me, the Starburst Supernova match for me was more so Supernova having a comp that works for a few maps and winning, and then their comp not working for the other maps. Because they were playing the Fizzy Bomb Gluga, right, the armor one. And I kind of made a small tweet about this, had a couple of replies. I think the thing about having one player that's just standing back and spamming Fizzies and armor, not really having your main weapon paint as much, it can do really well in zones. You get a lot of nice chip damage, you get to spam your armors in. But on tower control, what's spamming Fizzies gonna do for you compared to zones and all that chip damage, and the armor spam's not gonna be as good. And then Kyo was saying he doesn't even think the weapon fights well at all on tower control and stuff like that unless you have the perfect spacing. I mean, the main weapon doesn't paint. It does. It's grim level painting. It's not nice to see. So I think, but in a way that's nice for Supernova because it says, all right, now if you can take your one comp that works in that situation and then you find your comps that works in all the other situations, you can match up and beat these top teams. That's what it says for me about Supernova. And that's, for me, a positive more than a negative. Even though I'm currently bashing them because I don't like seeing this comp in every situation, if you can get a comp that works in every situation, then you can beat these teams. And that for me is a positive.
Yeah, it's a positive, and to build on that too, Supernova, even when they were back and known as low key, they've always been some of the mad scientists. They've always been the team that's willing to try different things. And sometimes, that can just get kind of steamrolled by armor aggro, which is kind of what we know Starburst for. They're a little bit more versatile than that, but to a certain extent, they're gonna let their frontliners go and they're gonna run through your strategy. That's just kind of how it goes. If a martial artist gets tackled by if a martial artist gets tackled by a rugby player, what's going to happen? Like, you can have all the technique and strategy you want, but I think sometimes, it does work. Like, we're, a year and a half from them almost beating FT Win at PAX with roughly the same roster. If anything, their roster's only better because they added Zero. But, like, I think that, to your point, Matt, you're absolutely right. Things just change so quickly that by the time they find something that works and they can fill their win con, like, maybe the meta's moved in a different spot. Something has changed. Maybe there's just one tweak, and that is kind of, I think, always been the reason that Supernova has been where they are, where they're like always close. They're always on the brink. But, when that's the focus and when you're always looking for answers in the form of your comps and your strategies, that's very difficult to replicate over multiple metas, multiple maps with multiple teammates.
I also remember for a short, brief period when they were Prophecy, when they were unsigned, they had like in one it's like such a specific instance, but they had like a tournament upset win over Kraken Paradise, and it was like it was normal Kraken Paradise when they were winning all the tournaments, and they knocked them out in like semi-finals or something. When they are playing properly, they can have insane capabilities, but sometimes they just see Rainmaker and they pick double Zap Explosher, and you're like, go off, I guess. If they find that consistency, then I think this is like such a high peak potential team. Same with Slaughterhouse. If Slaughterhouse find that level of consistency, they have such a high kind of potential cap, in my opinion, with players like Power on their roster. But
I think
not yet seen it.
Slaughterhouse is literally this close.
Yeah.
Like, something just needs to click for them to, because they are within shooting distance of a lot of these teams. They just consistently haven't been able to find it, right? They haven't been able to find that small one little thing. And there were signs of life there in that series versus Sayonara, especially when Soldier was coming up with these flanking plays. That I was like, yes, please do more of that. Find that those plays more, because this is what's actually working for you guys right now.
Yeah, Slaughterhouse. I've always seen Slaughterhouse, and even back in, I know, some of the tournaments that we've casted together, Melissa, it always feels like Slaughterhouse, even when they were Deep Blues, like, it was never an issue of comp. It was never an issue of talent. It almost always, they were one of those teams where I'm like, well, one team has to win and one team has to lose. And I think Taylor had a tweet, I think it was like yesterday or something, right after the set. He said 3-5, some small fumbles cost us some games, but I'm confident that we can win this. And I feel like that's always been the case for them. There was a period, and Kbot, this was like the first of my predictions that you screenshotted and posted on Twitter. There was a time period where I legitimately believed that Deep Blues was the best team in North America. There was the period when FT Win was going through their transition. This was before Hexen came in, won a tournament, and then left, as he is wont to do. But there was like that period where there was a big scramble, and I felt like they had it together. And then the big tournament happened the one weekend that Keen couldn't be there, and then they had to bring in another player, and it was rough. But they've always been so close, and they're one of the teams that when I watch their strategies, they always have the right idea. There's just moments. It's a hard game, and someone has to lose.
I think when you're that moment you're talking about for me was, I don't even remember the year, but it was the Turf War NA Open that Vitamin C placed in top 8. And I remember that was the moment, and I had already been friends with Day at that time. And I remember thinking like, man, like I knew they were good. I knew they were Deep Blues. I knew they were so good. And I remember thinking, this is one of my favorite teams. And it just became like that feeling of one team has to win, one team has to lose. And it's not that anybody is doing anything majorly wrong. It's just, like Taylor said, like those tiny little missteps. And I think that continues to be not just with them, obviously, but even with like Supernova as well. We've seen that with them before too, that they make some of these tiny little mistakes. Maybe they accidentally hit that double explasher. Maybe that wasn't on purpose. I don't know. Benefit of the doubt, right?
By the way, so that I think we've talked about it enough on the show, but I do want to get Nine's reaction. If you're sitting like point of view, you're sitting on the caster's desk. You see Rainmaker Piranha Pit. You see Supernova lock in double
Reef,
armor.
the Reef.
Washer. Was it Reef?
The Reef, yeah.
what was going
It,
through
it
your
was
mind?
no, even worse. It was Zap Zap Neo Splashomatic. They had like 0
Yeah.
on Neo Splashomatic or something like that.
Yeah, so I remember my like exact thought, and see, this is we can get into this conversation too. How do you take something that you look at and almost are just like, whoa, what? Like you were just so dumbfounded, and in an instant somehow filter that into, oh yeah, it seems they're trying to give themselves an opportunity to win some of these fights, maybe play it a little bit safe. Here's some burst painting here, and then they can get a real getting all of that together. My initial thought was. I had exactly one thought, and that was they're putting it all on 0. Like that is what that comp said to me. Is the rest of it was going to be damage mitigation and trying to slow down Starburst until 0 could make a play. And if you remember, 0 got I don't even know where he came from flank, got basically a quad. It was like a triple plus one other person that came out of the delay, and they were a handful of points away from winning that game. So. But I mean, that's what it came up like. That's what it looked like to me. Is it was we are trying not to lose this in a Rainmaker way, and eventually 0's going to find an opening, open it up, and we just have to be able to capitalize. And that's an awful lot of boxes to check if you're going to get your win.
And that's one of the things we'll probably talk about the Europeans division in a moment. Bias NA over here, but like. It seems like anytime that they're given these windows of opportunity, there are times they just fall a little short, right? It's just like, you're so close. That goes for Slaughterhouse, that goes for Supernova, that goes for a lot of these teams that are like just on the brink. It's like, man, if things could have gone just ever so slightly differently, if you were in just a slightly different position, you could have gotten a couple more points on the board. That's what a lot of these games come down to. And as mentioned, one team has to win, one team has to lose. At the end of the day, you're only going to remember the result of the game and not the exact score of the game and how many points difference it was, right?
Unless you're you.
Sometimes. It depends. It depends on the game. But anyway, I kind of want to pivot to the European division, which we haven't gotten to see much play out of. But it's like we had 2 sweeps, and we haven't seen the technical number 1 seed play so far in Radiance, which is a pickup of like what you'd expect out of an Alliance Rogue or Grugu for life. So how are we expecting this European division to shake out? Because to me, it looks like there are going to be 3 pretty good teams that are all going to vie for those last 2 spots. And then there's going to be Lemonade and Usual guys. Do we think you guys have it in them to challenge? Or I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on Europe?
That was actually kind of my first point. Is Rift going to be one of those top 3 teams, or is Lemonade just weaker? If you know what I mean. I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just a genuine response, because it's not that Lemonade are a bad team. It's just they're kind of the 5th best team. If you know what I mean. 5th best is a nice status to have in Europe, but I feel like you compare them to Usual guys and Rift, which would be kind of. I think they are the 3rd and 4th seeds, right? Do we think they are a step below those players? And do we think that, maybe that loss to Rift wasn't, Rift dominating, Rift being amazing? Was it Lemonade just currently needing to work a few things out? And again, I think Lemonade strong players, they have it, but they're also a new team. They have a lot of stuff they need to work out first before they can really develop. What I think the one thing that would really answer this question for me is seeing Rift and Freeze play each other. That's what I'm most excited to see. Not Freeze and Radiance, because I feel like Radiance are most likely going to win a lot of their early games, but Rift and Freeze for me is going to be a very, very telling and interesting game.
Yeah, Rift and Freeze is going to be interesting. The thing that I've always thought was kind of you can make this argument about a lot of North American and European Splatoon as a whole, but I really think in European Splatoon, as we talk about these top 3 teams, it's almost as if they've all got the same core goal in mind, right? They're going to build their armor, they're going to go fight, and that's how they're going to make it work. And when you have such an insular community, everyone is going to respond to what works best against what is working against them. That's just how metas come up. It's if you look at fighting games, East Coast Smash Brothers Melee versus West Coast Smash Brothers Melee back in those days, it was because one dominant player played a certain way, everyone responded to what they did. And I think since AR has been running the show for so long, that's kind of been how all 3 of these teams have or the 3 top teams rather, have geared themselves up. And I think that when you look at the 4th and 5th seed teams, I think that they've, of course, 3 buckets is certainly different than any other team you're going to bring out. Usual guys, of course, doing that. But I think that there is just a certain comfortability in the mechanical skill of so many of these strong European teams that I think we're kind of going to see 3 teams run at the top in the same way. And I mean, Radiance wrote the book on it. I mean, a variant of Radiance with these players.
Yep.
So honestly, I feel Radiance, that would be an awful bold statement. I feel more confidence that Radiance will have a clean run through Tassel than I do FT Win. And that's not because of anything wrong with FT Win. It's because I think if you're going to play Radiance's game against Radiance, like that, I don't know, man. That seems like a very risky proposition. But with regards to usual, guys, if you haven't watched Sendo's analysis of the set, I highly recommend that you do. It's not often that you see a player analyze for everybody a set where they got swept. And I think it's very showing like his mental fortitude, and it's a smart team, right? Those are top players. They've been at the top of this game before. They're going to bounce back. And I think to your point, Matt, I think part of Lemonade being, of course, experienced players, but being new is, sometimes there are the lumps that you have to take as you're growing. And I think that this may just be that for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a lot of early growing pains, like especially because they are experienced players, but I'd say they're kind of new to the realm of being considered at the top. If you know what I mean, they're kind of new to the top. They kind of have to get used to because it's very different. It's a lot harder. You need to get used to that level of play.
Yeah, very true. I guess the other thing, one of the interesting things about, you mentioned FT Win you might not be as confident in them getting a clean run through. The interesting thing about that is, of course, they're not playing with the same roster that they played with. I mean, obviously that's never really the case for FT Win, but even still, right? They're actually playing double support, and I guess versus Sayonara it worked, in that set last night. But outside of that, it's going to be interesting to see if they can kind of continue to hold on to that, and if a Starburst can even challenge them in that regard.
Yeah, Starburst is the team that I want to see. Right. That set, I think, is going to be the one that tells a lot. Of course, they had a fantastic battle back and forth at the most recent North American Championships, and that's going to answer a lot of questions. If they 5-0 that, then, I mean, it might be goose eggs the whole tournament, but yeah. I want to see that first set.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I'm going to plug it here because we might as well. If you missed any of the tournaments or any of the sets yesterday, VODs are going to go up on the Transatlantic Splatoon League YouTube channel. Those will probably be up early tomorrow morning when I wake up for League of Legends Worlds. Unrelated sidebar. So be on the lookout for those. More information for the Transatlantic Splatoon League can be found at tassel_SPL. And I made the mistake of giving Matt the Twitter password access for that. So we'll see if he holds any shenanigans there. He's been pretty nice so far. But I'm watching you. I'm just
kind of sitting back and thinking for now. What can I do? What boundaries can I kind of teeter?
Isn't November 1st Mischief Day? That's the day after Halloween is the day that or that was supposed to be Mischief Night, was the night before Halloween. There's something about it that you can...
I have no idea.
Well, this is the night before Halloween, so I don't know. Maybe just keep an eye on that Twitter account and see what happens. Who knows? But either way, I think that'll probably do it for the Tassel recap, since we probably want.
Sorry, one last thing that I wanted to make the comment on. Nine mentioned Sendo's VOD review. Silver is actually going to be doing a VOD review when the overhead camera goes up on the Tassel account as well. So I believe Silver is going to have one for Supernova, if you're interested to see that perspective as well in that set versus Starburst. And that'll probably also get retweeted on the Tassel account if I remember it, if I see it. So be on the lookout for that as well from him.
All right. I think. Oh yeah. Before we move on, I'm just going to say one thing. I actually feel really confident in FT Win's new look, because I really like that kind of 2D and Bursty, they both play the Zap, so they play the double Zap, but they have their other picks, Bursty has a really good squeezer, and then 2D kind of flexes over stuff like the Splash. So I think they'll probably be covered unless we get a big meta shift. That's the only thing I'm worried about. If there's a massive meta shift and double Zap is bad, then I'd be more worried, but I doubt it. But yeah, I think now we're probably going to move on to talk about the main thing, which is the commentary stuff. The reason why we have 4 commentators.
The reason why.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, this was Kbot's idea. So when you kind of came up with this segment, what was your idea behind it?
So the primary driving question that I want to kind of answer is what makes commentary good. especially in the context of Splatoon more than anything else, right? Because come on, no one else is just going to be tuning into this for any other general commentary, right? But I think that there's a lot of things that go into that, right? It's about partner synergy. It's about how you're actually presenting the game. Sometimes different, kind of methods and approaches can be used depending on the setting you're in, depending on the tournament, and things like that. So I want to kind of like dive into a couple of those things in no particular order. Let's just kind of, get a free flowing discussion going and see where it kind of takes us here. Because I think that like one of the interesting. I've spent way too much time lately thinking about commentary for this game in particular. Because, I mean, and everyone's going to say this about their individual game, but Splatoon is unique in terms of commentary, right? You'll be saying something, and then about 1.5 sentences later, something else is going to be happening on stream or on screen that you're probably going to want to pay attention to and want to call out to your viewers and your audience. So, how do you go about that? Is there necessarily traditional play-by-play versus color rules? Are those a little bit more fluid? So maybe we'll start on the topic of roles. What are are there any traditional commentary roles in your opinion? And I know I have my own thoughts about that, but I'll pitch it over to you two first.
I think Nine and I have discussed this a couple times when we've done like pre-LAN, hey, this is your first time being a commentator, like here's our suggestions. And I personally, I didn't learn commentary from a role point of view, right? So I just jumped in and I listened to everything, and no one ever told me, hey, this is exactly what you need, and these are the roles that exist within commentary. So for me, I never looked at it like that until it was like 4 or 5 months in, when someone was like, well, yeah, you're a color commentator. And I'm like, I know enough about the game to be called that. So I think that for me, it's just been, if you have, like you talked about partner synergy a little bit, and I think partner synergy and roles are really very closely related. And if you have good partner synergy where both of you can maintain both roles and you swap back and forth depending upon what's going on, that's where you have the perfect match for it. I'm
going to have to rapidly shift my answer. Otherwise, I'm just going to be repeating everything that Melissa just said. No, the point about synergy being more important than roles, I think, is so apt when it comes to Splatoon, because even in the sets, the World Championship sets where, we have more defined roles, where Jordan Kent is, kind of guiding things. He tosses it to me for analysis, Ashley on color. Like, even that only works because we all understand what the other one is thinking when the lead up is coming. And I think that, like you said, Kbot, this game is entirely too quick. I think the sport that I think it's most similar to of the traditional sports is hockey. And if you've ever watched a hockey broadcast, one of the guys doesn't get to do a whole lot of talking. And that's exactly how Splatoon would be if we did it in traditional ways. I think that the most important part is whatever your role is, you understand what it is you like to do on commentary. That's the first most important part. You understand what you want to do. You understand what you're best at. That takes the forefront. From there, you understand what your partner wants to do, and then the two of you add your numbers together and you make it work. And not every combination is going to work. Sometimes one side has to give a little bit. If there are two people who are mostly just describing the action on the screen, a lot of people probably aren't going to enjoy that. But that doesn't mean that two people who like to do that can't work. It's just understanding, okay, this person's on a roll, talking about what's going on here. They're making landmarks here. They're setting up flag posts. They're tossing it to me. I'm going to give a little bit and go the other way. But to me, that's far more important than any pre-described role could ever be.
I completely agree.
Yeah, and I think I agree for the most part, right? And it does kind of boil down to that, your partner and, your inherent synergy that you have with them. Like I will say, I've used this example in a lot of different, iterations, but one of the reasons why I like casting with Lily so much now is that I think they and I like complement each other so well. I am like at my default, right? I am very much more on the play-by-play, much more on the hypey side of things. And then Lily comes in, smooth voice, and kind of explains really quickly what just happened. And we can kind of go back and forth like that and bounce off one another very well. That said, there are also going to be other times, say I'm commentating with, Matt, which we haven't done recently, but we did a while ago, we're both much more on the aggressive side of things. And so we both have our moments to shine, and we both understand that there are, times where we need to back off a little bit and kind of take a step back, explain what's going on. And I think that flexibility is really what makes good commentators special in this game, right? It's about being flexible in order to kind of cover for whatever the game is, because in reality, you don't know what the game's going to throw you. It could be a 100-0 knockout. It could be a very close nail-biting overtime, and so much can happen in between both those things happening. So I think it's really about flexibility in terms of, making sure that you can, pair up with someone and, realizing, as you mentioned, what's your partner good at? What am I good at? How can we kind of come together in order to make a good product?
Yeah, I'd agree with a lot of those points. I'd say kind of like, especially the roles in this game are so hard because it's like, I always end up talking about Overwatch because it's the only other game I watch. But Overwatch is so easy to have like play-by-play and color in because you kind of have these two units. They are walking up to each other. They spend time walking up the map to talk about each other, so the color cast can talk about their comps. And then after spending like 5 minutes walking up to each other, they have a fight. So the play-by-play caster can take you through the fight, and the fight ends. But in Overwatch, like, you can't make a 1v6 play. So everyone always resets and just groups up and waits for people to be 6 again, and then you have another 6v6 fight. So it's so easy to have, like, Colorcaster talks about what's going, the analysis, then there's a fight, and then there's a break for pretty much like 30 seconds to a minute. There's like a whole break period. The Colorcaster can analyze what happened, talk about the plays, etc., etc. Then there's a fight again. In Splatoon, sometimes I'm like, wow, a really cool play happened. I want to talk about it. I try to start analyzing it, and before I know it, there's action again. It's like, I can't stand there and nerd out over a play because there's just fight and then fight and then fight and then fight. And I think a fight's over, but there's one guy sharking, he kills 3 people because it's Splatoon and that can happen. And it's like, you can't kind of slow down and step back and try and analyze plays all the time because of how like fast-paced this game is compared to other games.
But that said, I mean, one of the things that even Nine commented on is if it's just 2 people saying what's going on the screen,
yeah,
saying exactly what's going on the screen, I can watch what's going on the screen most of the time, right? I don't necessarily need that explained to me all the time. And so when you have 2 people that are very much along those lines of like, I'm just going to tell you what's going on the screen and not why it's going, or maybe what's the important part that's happening on the screen, right? Because I think that's one of the other things that I like to try to do is I am very much a big picture sort of a person, right? I'm telling you what exactly is going on in the entirety of the rest of the map, not necessarily just the perspective that you're seeing right here in front of you, right? I'm not focused at the center of the screen. And as a matter of fact, I probably spend too much time looking at the top score bar to see the number of squids that are alive on the map for any one team, to see which way this fight might go, who has their specials at the ready, when are those going to come out, and when is that push going to happen? And how are they setting up for that? Where are they approaching from? Where does it look like they're going to try to target next? And how are they splitting? How is a team splitting up these fights in order to find those advantages?
Can I say that you saying all that in my brain, I'm like, yeah, totally. And I can't recognize myself doing that. I don't know if this happens for anyone else here, but when I'm commentating, I don't think about any of those things. I know I'm doing them, but it's sort of like an inherent, these are all the things that are going on, and you're kind of picking up on the little nuances that are happening, but I don't think of it like how you just explained it. So you explained it, and I'm like, oh yeah, you are looking at all those things. You are thinking about all that. But from like a active point of view, I guess, you don't really, because it's moving so fast, you can't think and you can't take the time to consider those things. You just have to say them and talk about them, and you have to be able to react very, very quickly to what's going on. And if you want to analyze it, you have to be able to talk at the speed of Kbot to get that out.
Yeah, a great point, talking about how quick it is too. One of the things that I think is maybe the most invaluable skill when it comes to advancing your commentary or improving commentary is pattern recognition. You look at some of these, take fighting games, for example. Matt mentioning he does Overwatch. I do fighting games. That's my background. Yeah. Some of these combos, nobody should be able to do a wave shine in Melee. Nobody should be able to do a wave shine up smash. That's like 2 windows that are extremely tight. But because they've done it a million times, it becomes a pattern. It becomes a cadence. And as you watch more and more games, and as you watch more and more of these teams, which, you know, kind of amalgamates at the top, as you watch more and more of this, you're going to start to see these things. And it's not about you seeing, deriving, connecting dots, and then reiterating. You just see it and get it instantly. And that is, you know, one of the things that top players do so well. And to steal a term from FLC here, is recognize the game state. Everything that is going on in your field of vision and beyond your field of vision based on communication, connecting all of that and identifying the most effective response instantly. There are a million potential variables in that. And yet they find it because they've done it so many times. And I think that's the case for commentary too. You know, Kbot, you and I had a little chat after the last Tassel about how you've been watching more and more Splatoon, more than you ever have, more commentary. And I think that's a big reason why I think that your commentary has taken the next step. Because I don't think that you're searching for the answer in the middle of the test anymore. I think now you're starting to recognize some of these things because you've taken the test multiple times. And
right.
Melissa, you've put in as many hours in this commentary stuff as anyone has. I've commentated so many events with you at so many levels, and I agree with you entirely. At no point during this, like, maybe there's a point that we made earlier in the cast, and that pops into my head. And I'm like, oh yeah, we set this up earlier when we said that this was the spot to look for. Now, lo and behold, here it is. But for the most part, you're seeing these things, you're recognizing, you're recalling, and that's kind of how it all goes. I think that commentary at its core is a conversation. And like when you're talking to a friend, are you thinking about what you're going to say to your friend? No, you just talk to them. And I think that that's a big part of what makes better commentary.
I can't agree more with that. That's the number one thing when people are like, hey, how do I become a commentator? You know, I'm nervous. What advice do you have? Right away, that's what I say. I said, you're talking about the game. You know, you can have a conversation about your favorite thing without having to think really deeply, what is my favorite thing? My favorite ice cream is honey ice cream. I love honey in absolutely everything. I can talk about it forever and ever and ever. Splatoon is honey to people, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's the game that you would choose every Friday night to spend that time with. Then why are you, I guess for me, I'm like, yeah, there's always going to be anxiety. I'm sitting here shaking right now. Like there's always anxiety when you're in front of people and when you're talking about something. But if you're talking about something you love with somebody who loves it as much as you do, it becomes a lot easier to get to a point where you feel really comfortable about it.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I will say, like, going even back to your last point a little bit, Melissa, is it's about, you know, being a good commentator very rarely is about understanding the game at the highest level. Look at me, for example, right? You think I'd understand the game fully at its highest level? No. You think I can tell you exactly who wins in what fights and, like, you know, what's the margin for error and like a charge or shot or something like that? No, I couldn't tell you any of that. But I've been watching the game for a year now. I've been commentating it for, you know, a year and a half now. I mean, I've been watching the game for longer than a year, but like watching it like genuinely seriously, you know, for a year. Starting to think about these things, and like, again, as Nine said, you know, it's about having the background, having the experience that you can rely on in order so that when you're actually on the mic and live, you can just be like, oh yeah, okay, I've seen this a million times before. You know, this is exactly what they're going to go for here. And you can expect that. You can call that out when you can predict what they're about to do or predict when they're going to, you know, step forward, pop the armor, or find the engagement. You're all of a sudden more prepared for it. You're ready to talk about it a little bit more. And that just comes with practice. That just comes with the hours spent watching the game, spent talking about the game. Like, honestly, one of the best things that I think you can do if you're just starting out, flick on your Steam stream, try to ask around and spectate a scrim. There's no way that no one's going to let you spectate a scrim, right? Especially if other people are already streaming it. So just turn yourself on and watch it back later. What are the things that you're saying? What else are you noticing? What are the things you wish you would have said? You know, I think like that can go miles upon miles to just watching the game and forcing yourself to do that sort of a thing.
I never listen to my commentary again. I think Nine and I talked about this a while ago too. I can't stand to listen to myself over. I think about what I did and I try to adjust like as a tournament ends or as whatever set I'm casting ends. But if I have to go back and watch it, I would probably never cast again.
Yeah, no, there was it like in the real try hard periods I'll listen, but like I hate my voice. So I think every caster hates their voice. It just comes with the territory because they listen to it so much and they talk so much. But like, no, I think that, you know, you're right to a certain extent. You know when you messed up, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to go back and watch your VOD to know that you messed up. And I think like the big portion for me when I'm reviewing my bit is I try to imagine myself from a person who's, in the audience. Did that person's experience improve because of what I did? And I don't think that you always need to go back, and certainly there's slip ups, there's the vocal cues, things along those lines, and those certainly, if you go back and review, you'll have more than you thought you did. We've all been there. But I think for the most part, you come out of a set with a sense of how your casting went. And I think that's another skill that gets honed the more and more time you spend doing it.
Right.
But I also think that, like, it can be useful to watch over it, but even more than that, if there's someone that that saw the cast, sometimes they can pick up on the smallest things. They're like, so once someone said something to me, I'm gonna tell it with an anecdote because I can't do English, so it's easy to anecdote it, right? But once I had a friend that was just by chance watching the cast, and he just said to me in passing, yeah, I thought it went well, but I couldn't understand, half the stuff you were saying because I didn't understand the game, right? And at first I could have easily said that, they don't play Splatoon, that's all. But then it made me realize, like, there's a lot of people that are going to want to watch the tournament that don't fully understand Splatoon. And then it made me realize, maybe I need to, slow myself down, change, not speaking as much jargon and start talking, and start speaking in terms that more people understand. And it's like, sometimes a small thing that someone can say that was watching the set can help you so much more than just like 9-hour my own casting VOD review. Let's analyze, what I've done, because I've definitely still not perfected that part. I'm not gonna lie, that for me is one of the hardest kind of small minor hurdles to overcome. But it's like that one thing that he said to me actually like helped so much, and I think that sometimes those small things that other people are watching, those small things that someone could say that when they were watching can actually help you so much. I probably explained that in the worst way possible. You wouldn't believe I'm a commentator with this mic or this English. Like with this talking ability, this mic and everything going on, you would not believe I'm a caster, but it is what it is. I'm planning to get the mic upgraded by 2021. I'm just saying.
Just turn on Splatoon and talk, right from there, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, yep. The best compliment I ever got on my commentary was when my girlfriend's father said that he watched E3 and could understand about half of what was going on. He was just like,
cute.
Yeah, I play video games, but you did a good enough job that I knew what was going on half the time. And I was like, I'm done. This is as good as it's getting. Hang up the cleats.
But I will say, on that note, sometimes, your exact role and the things that you're going to want to say are going to be very dependent on your audience, right? Who is your audience? Is your audience someone who doesn't play the game? Is your audience someone who spends at least 100 hours or 300 hours on the game? What audience are you talking to? And that's, one of the things that is, I think, crucial. It's even one of the things that, compare something like Tassel with something like Low Ink, right? The Low Ink, people that are watching the Low Ink stream are probably a lot of the people that are filtering in after they've gotten knocked out of that tournament. They want to continue learning more. People watching Tassel are probably a lot of the people that, are somewhat involved in the scene and see that there are top teams competing and want to know what kinds of things that they can steal from those teams. What strategies are they employing? What kinds of things can we start to employ in our teams, whether that be compositionally, whether that be strategically, things like that. Meanwhile, things like the Nintendo tournament, you're going to have so many people that have very few hours on this game comparatively, right? You're going to have so many people that are just tuning in because it's like, oh yeah, I've heard about Splatoon a little bit and maybe it'd be cool to watch this thing. So that's an entirely different audience that you're going to be, trying to talk to there, to Nine's point. A lot of people that don't have a lot of familiarity with the game. So I think that's one of the other important things to kind of consider as you're a caster is who am I talking to, and what is the average kind of baseline for that?
I think that is one of my favorite things to do when I find out a YouTuber is hosting a tournament, because they have such a different scene that watches their VODs every day and is in their community and plays in their PBs. Like a Squidman, whenever he hosts a tournament, it's just so much fun because his viewer base is amazing. Vic Villain, the people who come to their streams, you just can't get that energy from people who continuously watch competitive tournaments that the four of us participate in. And I think that going into those chats sometimes is so much fun for me because you hear the commentators talking and, maybe they're not as experienced, so they're trying a little harder or however it is. And the people are like, yeah, but if you use aerospray on this map, you'll be able to get this coverage and all this. And I'm just like, I love this. I love the like purity of
Yeah.
someone wanting to use aerospray on tower control because they want coverage in front of the tower. Like, I'm like, it's just great. It's so exciting to me. And I think talking to your audience is really, really important. And that even made me think of like BNS as well. We catered to that audience of people
True.
who liked that
Bunch
type of
of
stuff.
People wanted to be
hooligans.
entertained on Friday night.
It's bold of you to call them people. I say as a frequent BNS spectator, I digging it myself here. That was less about Splatoon and more about all right, boys, welcome to BNS. Get your wallets and we'll see what YouTube video we're referencing and spamming in chat tonight.
Oh man, yeah.
And to that point, I do think I do think it can be a trap sometimes. You try to guess too much of what the audience wants to hear, and you try to adjust what it is on that. I mean, like you're putting words in other people's mouths, and their expectations may not be anything of what you want. So I think there is, a certain fundamental approach that you can apply to everybody. I guess at the 10,000 foot level, my flowchart is establish expectations for what's in the match, react to whether or not those expectations have been met, analyze why those expectations were or were not met, and then you can just kind of apply that thing. Now again, it's a big flowchart from there, a flowchart that gets erased and rewritten in real time, but I think that, everybody, if you set up that, this point of the map is important, then when that part of the map falls, even somebody who has no idea what's going on understands, okay, that was big. If you set up the expectations of, this is an easy map to defend on, and somebody breaks through, everyone can understand that that's a big play. It doesn't matter what level of the game that you're at. And, to Splatoon's credit, I said this in a tweet way, way back. Splatoon is one of, I think, from a spectator standpoint, one of the most brilliantly designed games ever, because you can tell who is winning in that moment by looking at the map. What color is the map? Is it more blue? They may not be winning overall, but blue team's probably in a better position right now. And that applies to pretty much every mode. I think that's one of the brilliant design aspects of this game, but that's a whole nother ordeal. I think, to Melissa's point, we get so focused sometimes on, the game itself that I think sometimes we miss the forest for the trees. And I've always said from day one, my greatest asset in my Splatoon commentary, and Kbot, we talked about this, but I didn't get to say this because I want to save it for tonight. I love this game. I love this game as much as anybody. If I could commentate this game every day for the rest of my life and be fed and, sleep, have a house, I would do it. Because it doesn't matter if I'm watching newcomers play or top level Splatoon, I will enjoy myself no matter what. And I think that, that has to come into play at some point because your attitude is one of the most important parts of your commentary. And again, to your original point that I even bring this up for, Kbot, is I think that if you try to focus too much on pleasing the other people, that you don't end up enjoying the game in an authentic way. It's going to come through. So I think, to that point, I have a fundamental way that I like to approach every cast, but if you try to please a group of people that you haven't even collectively, spoken to or surveyed, that sometimes you can really end up beating yourself up for no reason.
Yeah, to that point, what's the most important part? Be yourself
Having
on
fun.
the mic. Having fun on the mic.
Yeah.
It's like at the end of the day, if you're not having fun, then why are you here? If people aren't having fun watching, why are they here? That's the entire point. We're all here because we love the game. We're all here because we want to see this game continue to grow, or even just because this is what's giving us our enjoyment for tonight. This is what's giving us our enjoyment for the moment. So cherish that. Come through with how you want to do this thing. Come through, crack whatever jokes you want. To some degree. I mean, obviously,
yeah, okay, to some degree.
Then it comes into your audience.
A can of worms, Kbot, has been opened, and you are officially pouring it.
Let me say, Kbot, to that, one of the Nine, you talked about the best compliment you ever received, right? So one of the earliest things I remember feedback on my casting, I think it was that crazy long tournament I casted with Hitzel. Someone wrote in chat, it's nice to hear a girl. I love her laugh. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And I literally remember thinking, I mostly know what I'm talking about. Like, and I didn't obviously respond or anything. And I remember saying that to Hitzel, and he's like, you did like really well for sitting through your first like giant tournament. And I consistently saw that comment, I love her laugh. I love her laugh. I love her laugh. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to feed into that. That is part of my personality in real life. I laugh like 90% of my day just because it's like who I am, and I like bringing that positivity because I feel better, you know? So I was like, I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to be myself. If I make a stupid comment, I'm going to laugh at myself, and I'm going to be like, oh well, I messed up. Yeah, I don't totally know what I'm talking about all the time, but do any of us? I mean, really?
Yep.
I mean, I think that kind of even leans into like what Kbot was saying earlier about like having all these different unique personalities. Because you get stuff, because Kbot said that he really likes commentating with Lily because, you know, their kind of I suppose contrast of commentating styles can really, really work well together. And if you just kind of had like, so if you're trying to get into commentary and you're just like, okay, who's doing well in Splatoon commentary? Nine. Okay, I'm just going to be like Nine, and I'm going to do my best to just copy Nine in everything he does and try and become 9-2. That's not going to work for you. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe if it will, if you just take 9 skills and go to another game, but that's not going to work for you, because it's like people like having different casters for a reason, you know. Because I think that, you know, you have Kbot, you know, he's speaking very fast. And he speaks very fast, and he does know. And you know, as much as I'm joking.
The only thing that's a part of my brain.
I'm joking. And you know, and also, you know, despite the credit he tries to take away from himself, he does kind of know what he's talking about sometimes. You know, you were saying you don't really know what you're talking about the game. I'd say you know more about the. You have a better understanding of the game of like 50% of +2. Like I'd say that's a solid number. I'd say you have a better understanding than that much. You know, like, so you have these different styles. You have of course, again, you had like, you know, Lily has like, you know, kind of speaks in the like soothing, kind of calming, you know, tone to kind of bring it back, you know, take away from Kbot going off like a rap man. You have me just shouting him to my tin can mic in my British accent, you know, whenever someone gets 1 kill or something. I mean, okay, maybe I shouldn't do it when someone gets 1 kill, might go a bit too far, but you know, having that like kind of varying styles and having, you know, that is so much more fun than just being like, oh, that person's doing well, I'm going to be them. You know, I think that being yourself on the mic is one of the most important things to, you know, be successful and enjoy yourself, is to be yourself on the mic.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I was talking about speaking loud. Unfortunately, everyone's been telling it for the entire life. I speak very loudly. I've been told that I'm shouting when I think I'm talking for about 18 years at this point. So, yeah, I've got to get that fixed. But, you know, it can come in handy in some places.
Yeah, and I think to I guess maybe put a bow on this portion, like, why is the idea of having fun on the mic so fun? You're not going to stick around if you don't. Like, right? How many times have we referenced, like, you know, there's so many portions of this trade that you are just going to naturally pick up in your own way over time. If you're not having fun, you're not going to stick around for any of that. So, you know, it's I mean, it is what it is. If you don't enjoy yourself, your commentary won't be good, and you won't stick around long enough to get good. So that's sometimes the truth.
I think that's really something that both of you had kind of touched on a little bit too, is this idea of like, if somebody doesn't appreciate that commentator's style, they don't need to watch the tournament from that side, right? True. And it's a great thing that we have within Splatoon and using Twitch kind of as a platform, that people who don't want to listen to commentary, who want to just watch the gameplay, they choose to go and watch someone who's streaming it, and they watch the player and they watch that point of view. And I think that that's something to be said too, that like, someone who wants to be a caster and they're like, hey, I want to be like NineWholeGrains, be yourself, because somebody wants to listen to you for who you are. You know, they want to listen when you and Nine are on the mic together, because it's not 2 nines, which would be kind of cool. But, you know, imagine like if you had like a, you know, your duplicate, your, what's that, clone pop up next to you, and would you have as much fun with yourself? I don't know. I don't think I would have as much fun with myself for that. I don't think that, like, that's why I love casting with Kbot, because we can just go back and forth, and he'll say like 5 times the amount of things I'll say within the same amount of time. And I'm just like, yes, absolutely. And I feel better because I can use my absolutely 5 million times and feel fine about it, because he's covered everything else I need to talk about.
Oh, we can say, sometimes that's all you can say is, you're right. I can add nothing to that.
That is-
Like, you have been so comprehensive.
I will say, I think I'm starting to I'm slowly starting to creep up on Hitzel levels of like being that comprehensive, and I might need to start dialing it back a little bit because that's scary. Anyway, Nine, how would you feel about 18 whole grains on the mic?
18 whole grains. So I'll tell you what would happen if I was on the mic with myself. Okay, we would both show up, hyped up on caffeine, out of our minds. The first set would just every time one of us spoke, the other one would gradually get faster and faster and faster to try to match the energy of the other one. So, like, I'm a big believer in matching the energy of your co-commentator. You know, I love commentating with different people because everyone brings a different perspective. I can always learn something new from anybody I work with. And because I've just worked with so many people over my years of casting that, you know, it's always fun to see who's going to turn up next. And so I always try to match the energy of who I'm with. So if I saw somebody getting excited, I would get excited with them and then be like, okay, I'll get excited. And then, you know, I'm no talk speed up host, but I can get going pretty quick when I need to. And then eventually we would both try to slow it down, and then we would both try to analyze with each other. And eventually we would get so esoteric with our analysis that nothing would actually be said of value. And so I think it would probably go very poorly. This is a long-winded way of saying
Yeah.
Well,
there is you can fall into a trap of trying to match everything your co-commentator does. So at a certain point, you know, you gotta be you.
You guys might be
But
saying
I
you're okay. Oh, sorry, yeah.
What again?
Oh.
That's one of the things that, like, you know, me and Lily together. I'm on the opposite side of that. It's not so much that we match each other's energy. As a matter of fact, like, a lot of the times Lily's energy is lower than mine, but that is fine. Like, that is part of her role, right? It's not necessarily about Lily being super, like, you know, over the top and, like, you know, that's my role, right? I'm the one that's getting you amped up about it. Then Lily's coming in and explaining why and, like, setting the stage for what's about to happen next. So I think, like, to some degrees, yes, you want to match your partner. There are also other times where, like, you know, you want to be, you know, perhaps taking it down a notch if you realize that things are like, don't let it get out of hand, you know?
I don't know. You guys are saying that you don't think that commentating with yourselves would be fun. I'd love to cast myself. I don't know. Just sitting there and messing about. Like, it's just because there's, like, I feel like I'm the only other person that would troll as hard as me on a cast. And I could just kind of, you know, see how far I could take it. So that's the only reason I'd enjoy it. I mean, to be fair, that's just how I feel when I'm casting with Toby as well. So, yeah.
I was going to say, hold on a second.
I love the two of you together. It's like one of my favorite casting pairs I think I've ever listened to.
But I was just going to say, if you have any big official tournaments, never have it be me and Toby, because we're probably just going to troll your grand finals cast. So, yeah, that's one thing I'll just warn you with before we get, you know, that goes anywhere.
Where are we going next,
right,
Kbot?
so
Where's this conversation going now?
Don't put them on the tassel finals. Is what I'm getting.
Okay. All right. So, I was going to see, did anyone want to say anything else about commentary? Because if not, it feels like we've come to a pretty good conclusion of the conversation. Instead of just ending it, I like to double check just in case someone has, you know, a burning thought they want to let out. So,
so one thing, like, personally, that I will say, and I don't know if, no pressure if none of you guys want to, like, reciprocate this, but I have a feeling a lot of you will. I mean, obviously we've talked a lot, but there's obviously so much more. And I will say that, like, a lot of feedback I give is very direct to the person, right? It's very hard for me to come up with, like, what should you do on the mic, right? Without having listened to you first. So to that degree, I have done things before where I've listened to people or, like, listened to a game and provided some feedback. So if you'd like that, you all know where to find me at this point. I'm on Discord or Twitter. Link a VOD, like, that you want me to watch, and I'll listen to it when I get the time. It'll write, like, probably a paragraph up about my opinion. Now, my opinion is not the law, by the way. You're welcome to disagree, but I'm more than happy to, like, give my opinion back to anyone who's looking to try to get a little bit better. And I imagine that a lot of the people on here are the same way.
Send me that same VOD, because I promise you, Kbot's analysis of that will have a very different take on it than mine will, and I think you'll be able to learn a lot from both sides. My DMs are always open to anyone who wants feedback. I stopped offering feedback to people about a year ago, I guess, because I felt like, who am I to kind of give that? Like, I felt like that was, like, overstepping a little bit. so I feel like people don't ask. They don't think to ask, like, hey, like, I want you to listen to what I did, because I'm not like forthcoming with it, but always happy. And I'm always happy to talk about it too. I know Nine and I talked about it, but our schedules never line up. That it's like we could sit here and talk about commentary and we can talk about Splatoon forever, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to that point, I will ask you please not to send me any VODs for very much the same reason that Melissa just mentioned. Throughout all of this, I've never considered myself someone who could teach anybody how to commentate or who could give you advice on commentary. Like, that's not who I am on anything. Like, am I an expert on anything? No, absolutely not. There's so many people who have worked in Speechcraft, who have done various commentating roles at the professional level forever. Go talk to them. They're the ones who really know. They've been living off of this. This is just a hobby of mine that got taken way too far. But what I will do with you is I will have a conversation with you about commentary. And I will ask you questions, and I will ask your opinion on things, because I firmly believe that everyone's relationship with commentary and how they learn it and the style they develop is completely unique to them. And I want you all to be like, I would want anyone who comes to me to find that journey on their own. And maybe I can ask questions that I think could help them go a certain way. Like, if you ask if commentary was good, I said, what do you consider good commentary to be? Like, was I good here? I'm like, well, what do you think you did wrong? And, you kind of flesh it out from there. And, there's a book, one of my favorite books, it's called The Inner Game of Tennis. And the reason it relates to this is part of the idea of the book is that if you tell somebody to do something over and over and over, and all they're trying to do is match your directions, they're never going to get it. They're always going to think too much on it. They're going to overthink. They're not going to be what they want to be because they're not going to do what you told them. But if you show somebody how something is done well, they're going to put their own spin on it, and they're going to find their own way to try to achieve the end goal. And so that's what I will do if you come and ask me for help on commentary, is I will hopefully help you on your own journey to finding commentary that you enjoy, and from there becoming a commentator that you would want to listen to.
We're literally playing The Voice right now, where we're all trying to get people to come join our team so that we can that's literally how I felt at the end of that. Like, this is what I will do for you. This is how I'll be there. But Nine, you made a really good point as well that I know we want to wrap up, but I just want to touch on this. Yeah. So when I was in grad school, I went to grad school because I wanted to teach graphic design, right? So I'm like, I want to teach. You have to go to grad school to be a teacher. That's like kind of the given within that industry. So I was like, okay, how do I learn how to teach? And within one of my very early classes, they said, you can't teach someone to teach. And I think commentary is very, very similar. You can't teach someone how to do it. You can guide them, like you're saying, Nine, and you can give them resources to be able to develop different skills that they need. And once you get those skills, it's going to become a process that then you feel more comfortable about. Teaching is the same way. You can't teach them to teach. You'll give them all the skills they need to be able to build that repertoire to talk to someone else about something. And I think that that's like what we all want to be here for, is just to help guide and give those skills. And I think that's like a really good analogy for life, even that everything that you're going to do, you want to kind of build the skills that you need to continue to get through it. And that's where like Nine's response on how he will respond to feedback is great, because it will help make you think. And that is the behavioral therapy, if you will, of what it's about. How am I processing what I'm doing that will change what I've been doing so I can do it better, so I can keep going, the constant cycle.
Another real quick analogy for us students out there is it's the equivalent of giving someone else to do the problem for you versus having them help guide you through the problem, right? There's just two distinct things. And truth be told, I can't speak for you, in terms of your commentary. So there is like that inherent guiding process that has to get done. But on that note, I think it's time to close the book on commentary. And we unfortunately have to go to Matt's favorite segment.
Unfortunately. No. Very fortunately, we will. I'm saying I'm gonna go back to the voice teams. I would totally lose on that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to I don't know how to guide people through anything. I think the last commentary thing I did was Ink for Pink, and I remembered to do it because Melissa pinged. Are you guys ready?
I remember you telling me that.
I feel so guilty. Because I've genuinely, every commentary thing I've ever had, I've always thought, like, a week ahead, I have this commentary thing, This one time, I didn't remember, I came on last second, Nine was there, and then we had to do, like, these ad reads, and, like, Nine did the ad read, and I was supposed to do the next bit, and I just said, yeah, Nine, it's a great organisation. And then just went silent. And then he just carried on. And instead of carrying...
As soon as you said that, I was like, I'm getting no help in this thing.
Yeah. Look, it was an interesting day, and sometimes I would say I'm probably the most scuffed commentator out there. So yeah, just my advice is if you're ever doing an ad read, just say great organisation. You carry on. I'm just sitting here. I'm having a great time. But yeah, so we're going to move past that, and we're going to go to the final segment, my favourite segment, the best segment, Matt's Player of the Week. So, Matt's Player of the Week, who's it going to be this week? It's not always what Kbot says. Kbot always says it's someone who makes me laugh on Twitter. It doesn't always have to be that at all. It's just someone that kind of has stood out for me, recently. And, we're going to have a fun player. It's going to be a good Player of the Week, this one. It's going to be a good Player of the Week, trust me. That was actually a lot of options, because there was so much Tassel stuff going on. I considered a few of the players. There was a few nice tweets. There was some funny stuff going on in Twitch chat. There was a few funny streams, but I could only pick. There's only one person I could pick at the end of the day. We all know who it is. Matt's Player of the Week. It's Kbot. The second time someone on the episode of the Player of the Week. Kbot is my Player of the Week today. He has done so much for Tassel so far. Okay, so I'm gonna stop memeing. Genuinely, Kbot has done way too much for Tassel. I don't know if you guys are seeing this stream, and that's why
I haven't pulled up in the background.
Yeah.
What?
Wait, what? I don't have it open.
But
That's just little graphics for this thing, and I don't even.
no, but
I don't even.
okay. Sorry, yeah.
Is this? I'm pretty sure this is only my first time.
Yeah,
I don't think you did.
It's my second time that someone on the episode has gotten Player of the Week, with Sendu being the first. But yeah, these it's for genuine reason, alright? I'm gonna stop memeing. I'm gonna slow down for a bit. But genuinely.
Wait, hold on. I'm on a Snickers ad. I need to see the graphics.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I just saw it and I started laughing and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's great.
You guys, okay, so genuinely, Tassel was originally going to be just the teams duking it out, and then a caster just putting it on their stream and talking over it, and that would have been fun. That would have been a great event, and it would have been just entertaining. The amount of effort Kbot has put into going on his Excel sheets and making all of these graphics that end up turning out really well for stuff that's been done through spreadsheets. Getting all those graphics done, getting the Twitter account up and running, getting the YouTube account up and running, getting everyone together, getting these prediction scoreboards, all of this extra stuff has made Tassel so fun and so much more exciting for me to go through. And I think the same can be said for all of the players and spectators. All of kind of this extra stuff that's been added has made it so much more fun and exciting. And yeah, that's why Kbot's my Player of the Week. I think it's really added to Tassel in a great way. And yeah, shout outs to Kbot, who is right here. That's one of my non-meme Player of the Week. Well done.
Wow.
You get your MS Paint trophy.
I also just saw Melissa's face when you said that I was doing graphics in Excel.
Well, part of that reaction was a terrible flashback of week 1 when I was on the organizer lead for G7, and Kbot's like, here's the link to this spreadsheet, and he's like, fill all this stuff out and do all this. I think I DM'd you and I was like, I can't understand this, you need to do it for me. I literally did not get it at all, and I'm looking, like, it took me 25 minutes just to try to understand it. I'm like, I don't get it, dude, I'm sorry. And then he DMs me like 2 months later and he's like, you put all this stuff in the wrong spot. I'm like, I told you I'm not gonna understand it. I don't know what you want me for me.
Wow, Kbot,
so,
way to go, man.
Yeah, well.
No,
2 months late with something that she already knew.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I know when I came to asking for help with Ink for Pink. I was like, this is why I know I can ask for help for you, because you were so organized and so detail oriented for that type of stuff. I can only imagine what your schoolwork looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wait, I just want to go to Melissa's point. That is the best thing I've ever heard, because me being this scuffed, unorganized person that doesn't turn out things on time and reflect my schoolwork is perfect.
It's so true.
I have like ripped up formula books everywhere, and like pages missing, and like my handwriting is scribbles that is in massive font, and like if like in my tests, I literally have like massive circles around the answer with arrows pointing to it, saying this is the answer. Sorry for the working out. Because the working out, you have to go like across all of this, and it's like it's like the answer's right here in the middle somewhere, and then the working out's like there and there. And
in any event, bringing it back though, I mean, like I genuinely saw an opportunity with Tassel that I don't think comes around a lot in competitive Splatoon, and that's to really make a product and an experience that's impactful for so many people. And so that's one of the things that like really drove me to like really make something out of this, because I was like, are we really just going to flick on our streams and commentate over these matches? Like, people, if you put this stuff out, people are going to show up, and I know this community will. So I had faith in doing that. That's a large part of the reason why I was doing so much on Twitter. A large part of the reason why, we've had so many other ideas that have come forward. And, I'm really happy with how the league has, started off in these first 2 weeks. Thank you, of course. Shout out to Sendo for actually organizing it, and the players themselves for coming together, because this league doesn't exist without a player is actually coming together and doing it, right? I can do everything that I want, but as long as if the players don't want to play, they're not going to play, and then this is going to be so much less interesting. So, yeah, it's definitely been a blast to help organize, and I'm looking forward to see exactly how the next 2 months shake out, or a month and a half or so at this point kind of shakes out, because I think it's going to be fun to just follow on the whole. So thank you all for coming on along with our ride with us, and looking forward to seeing where that takes us.
I promise I'll watch. I promise.
@Tassel_SPL. I promise there's not a ton of propaganda on there. I post a meme, but the memes I post on there, I think, are pretty good.
I did go through the Twitter account, and I really appreciated a lot of the content, and I was able to like catch up, and I'm like, man, this is really cool what they're doing. And then I had that moment of like, we had a hurricane yesterday. I work in insurance. We had a hurricane yesterday. and literally that was my brain. It was like, this is so cool. I spoke to 9 different people, and I set up 10 homeowners claims. Like, literally, I'm like, I want to be a part of this. I have time.
Yeah.
So really great job that all of you guys are doing. I'm really impressed.
We'll get you on a cast at some point, Melissa.
Kbot, I'm 50-50 on watching the rest of Tassel, by the way. Still haven't started yet.
Okay. All right, Nine. Jeez.
All right, I think that pretty much wraps everything up now, unless anyone has any closing notes. So this is the part where you can plug anything you want to. It doesn't just have to be your Twitter, Twitch. If there's anything in particular you want to plug, or I don't know. Any goodbyes?
You two go first. You two go first. I don't know what order you want to go in.
I don't have anything to plug, so have at it, Nine.
Yeah, so you can find me at twitch.tv/gingerbreadman17. That's GingerbreadMan17. You can also find me lurking around on Discord on the Republic of Breadtania. And occasionally I might stream Zelda Ocarina of Time Randomizer every once in a while.
You didn't get to see a reference to that.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I didn't this time. Just wait, everybody. Oh, yeah, the dirty little secret of commentary is it's always decided by how many old video game references you can work into a broadcast. Next time I cast, listen along and see if you can play it. It's like a crossword puzzle.
Oh, no.
But in any case...
Drinking game?
Yeah, I was about to say, take a drink for any time that Nine or Prodigy made an Ocarina of Time reference, and you would be out.
Oh, wait till you see the Knuckles references that Jordan Kent and I try to work into some of these broadcasts. It's good. In any case, seriously though, everybody, please, Tassel, a lot of work has gone into Tassel. It's a very, very small team. I think that any sort of league-based format in Splatoon, especially one with high production value, it's an astronomical amount of work over a large amount of time. So tune in. If you don't want to watch us talk about it, you can at least watch the players, but seriously support it. There's a great prize pool. The teams are going to be duking out until the end. And, I think that we're going to see some great matches as time goes on, so support it if you can.
Fingers crossed on that last part. Last time we used the Tassel brand, the teams decided to stop playing. So hopefully that doesn't happen this time around.
I was there. Tragic, dude. I was so tragic.
Was this Is this a season 1 reference? I'm not.
This is a season 1 reference from 2 years.
Yeah. God, am I the only one still commentating from Tassel season 1? I'd have to go back and look. It was like me, Vesper, Eirik, Walkie, Zach.
It may be.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Nine's old, by the
Um,
way.
Don't bring up age, because I'm the oldest one here in
I
this
just said
group
that
before.
none of my
So
friends are commentating anymore. That's what. God, Zach,
different.
if by some chance, Shiny Hunter Zach, you see this, please come back to me. I miss you.
I miss you too, Zach.
We miss you too. Yeah,
I'm really sad that I kind of got into commentary when Zach got out of commentary, because I've like never had a conversation with him in my life. I've never kind of experienced any commentary or anything with Nine Zach, because I came in too late.
Go watch some of the old Inkststorm VODs if you can find them.
I've watched a lot of his VODs, but yeah, I never got to. Yeah.
Anyway, Melissa, since she won't shout out herself, find her on Twitter. It's on the screen. She does a lot of good work, especially for the stuff over at GSM. So give her a follow. Pay attention to the things, the next project that she works on, because you know it's going to be top notch coming from over there. I've obviously Nine did the work of shouting out Tassel for me, so I don't need to do that. There are actually 2 tournaments going on right now. There is the League, which doesn't have a stream tonight, and there's Testing Grounds, so you can go follow IPL Splatoon for that if you're looking for more content. Tassel match tomorrow is on this channel, and for some godforsaken reason, we gave it over to Ninja and Dragadudo again. So if you want to have 2 Brits talking over a North American match this time around, be sure to tune into that tomorrow. I believe that's at, I need to double check the time. I think that's 2 p.m. Eastern.
I don't know when it is. I
I
think it's a 4 p.m. Eastern. I think it's 4 p.m.
Well, you
Eastern.
guys are looking for that. I do have one other shout out, and this one's actually real. If you want to follow more Splatoon news, follow Splatoon News _. I will shout that account out every time I get the opportunity to, until what anonymous saint runs that.
True.
Like, I don't know who you are, but post your PayPal so I can donate some money to you. Seriously, like, goodness gracious, the amount of work that account puts in, it's awesome. But seriously, the grassroots people behind the scenes support it.
4 p.m. Eastern is the Tassel match.
All right.
Yeah. So 4 p.m. Eastern, that is 8 p.m. British time and 9 p.m. Central European. So tune into that. Again, that's on twitch.tv/ninja _, as he would say it himself.
Was that your impression of me?
That is almost my impression of you, yes.
How much money do we need to raise for the next set they commentate together? Ninja to imitate Kbot and Kbot to imitate Ninja.
Amazing. That would be so good.
I would love
Ninja's
that.
up to bat right now, Kbot. You gonna step up to the plate or not? Come on.
Oh my goodness.
At least one game. At least, like, you could do it for 5 minutes. Come on.
I would be down.
I don't know.
I'd do it for a tournament. I'd do it for 2 tournaments.
All right, that's enough of this. Ninja, bring us home.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for watching. Talk Speed Up's going to be up on YouTube if you've missed the rest of the episodes. If you want to watch the episodes, follow everyone. Enjoy Halloween very soon, Americans. Happy Halloween, Europeans. It's a spooky day today. Don't trick or treat. Be good. And I don't know. Have a good day. I'm not gonna. I'm ending it. All right, I need to wait.